to give us your 9 tips to reduce food and paper and plastic waste. What are your 9 tips?
This is the 9 tips from John Malone, the Christian and Jobs Action Party. We're stepping up to the plate about this business of the plastic, what would they call it, the plastic waste that is clogging up seas, forests, rivers, affecting fish, the fish in the ocean, the fish in the rivers, etc. No matter where you go, you see plastic hanging off trees, if there was a bit of wind, stuck in ditches and all the rest of it. It's widespread. So we have 9 tips here to try and do something about it.
Now this is to reduce food waste. We're going to be talking about this in more detail, but you're going to give us your 9 tips first.
9 tips about plastic.
So let's go. What are they?
Now, the one thing is, we'll start off with where we eat sometimes in these fast food outlets and where we have coffee. We'll talk about Starbucks, Insomnia, McDonald's,
Costa coffee,
and what you say, the other.
There's another one there called Costa coffee.
Costa coffee and all this. So we've got to sort of look at them and sort of devise a strategy to try and tip them off, to try and do something about the environment and the fact that they're using plastic to supply their customers with coffee.
The problem, John, is with it is that the cups, most people don't know that the coffee cup they have in their hand in these fast food places and Starbucks, Insomnia, Costa coffee, they can't be recycled because the inside layer is plastic. They can only recycle the paper on the outside, okay?
Yes.
Until the technology changes. So what you're saying, your first tip there is that bring your own mug.
Bring your own mug to these places, because it's mostly people working in offices in the city centres, in the various cities, Dublin, Cork and Limerick and all these places, and in shopping centres where we have these outlets. They're all over the place, and it seems extraordinary that when we're at home, we generally don't eat out of plastic cups and that. When, say, visitors come in and they want to spend an evening with us, we don't supply them with tea and coffee in plastic mugs or whatever way they look. We supply them in ordinary mugs, china mugs and china cups, etc. So what is wrong with these coffee shops, Starbucks, Insomnia, Costa and all the rest of it, having ordinary china mugs for their customers, and stop trying to the customers trying to give the impression that when you see them on the street with these coffee things from Starbucks and all the rest of all these other coffee places, and haven't dined in the place, but they're bringing them out. Now, the fact is that they'd be better off forgetting about that kind of codology. Bring their own mugs, if they're working in offices, bring their own mugs, china mugs, and get their coffee that way. And if they want to bring it home and that, and put some cover on it so as it won't spill. But it's but even where they work, is there no system there in their organisations that they can have tea and coffee in china cups? Because personally speaking, I think anything other than china, the taste is lost. It doesn't matter what it looks like, but the fact is that there's plastic involved. Now, if you want to be poisoned, there's probably stuff coming off plastic. I think there's a health issue here as well. So that's one of the things. Bring mugs. Now, okay, you go into fast food outlets and you get plastic tomato ketchup and all the rest of it. Now, why can they not go away from plastic and use some kind of a proper small mug or small container that's China?
Like an egg cup, you mean?
Like an egg cup.
Yeah.
And fill it if a person wants it, because oftentimes they don't actually use the
You mean fill it with ketchup, is it, rather than give them the
yeah,
plastic?
rather than give them plastic, go away from the plastic, minimise think of the environment and the pollution. It's the plastic that causes the pollution that we see ourselves as we're going about. We're not worried about the sky and that part of the thing. It's what we see on the ground. And we see plastic bags. We see these in the thing. This is the second tip. Use the small egg type China type of for tomato sauce and that, and so that you can clean it in your washing machines or whatever.
You're talking about the fast food outlets, the way
fast food outlets.
the way they pour the milkshakes. They could actually have a thing for tomato ketchup.
Correct.
With like a little egg cup, and they just
keep away from plastic at any time. If you're giving tea or coffee to a person, do it in a mug, a China mug. You don't have all this waste of plastic and this mountain of stuff that you have to have for all the customers, because they do a great business. And funny enough, I paid them a visit myself, but I would love if they didn't have all this plastic. Now, so here's another tip.
Reduce the size of the dinner plate. The dinner plate has increased since the 1960s.
Yes.
In size.
Reduce the size of the dinner plate. Get a smaller plate. Now, some homes have a lot of food waste, and according to what they make out, reduce food waste, in this country there's a lot of food waste. So reduce food waste. Buy what you need, or rather what you need, not what you want. Because if you buy too much stuff and bring children with you to want this, that and the other, because their eye doesn't go to their stomach, they see with their eye, so have your list made out and buy what you need, not what you want. That's very important. And as I say, reduce the size of your dinner plate to a smaller plate, and you'll do your health good as well. You won't be out like putting on too much weight.
Portly.
Correct. And you know, while it's nice to have nice food, but try and be sensible about these things and think of the waste.
That's it.
Now, when you have a fridge, try not to have a huge effort that you have food in here, there and yonder, and if there was a strike or something, you'd have enough food to do you for a month, maybe 2 months. So be sensible about it. The chances of something happening that you need all this food, but buy what you need for perhaps the week, if you do a shopping that you want to hold over. But do not kind of store stuff that you're not going to use.
So no forever buying. You're not buying forever, in other words.
Correct. But buy for what you need for perhaps the week. I suppose it's not economical to be going into to buying your food every day. That seems a waste as well. So buy what you need and try and avoid waste. And when you buy your food, very important, though you don't have much of a chance sometimes, try and buy package-free food. It's not always possible, because everything in the shops, particularly the supermarkets, are all pre-packaged with plastic. Now we know plastic is not degradable, and they can talk until they're blue in the face about trying to do something about degradable plastic. At the moment, it's clogging up the seas and the rivers, so forget about plastic, get away from plastic, go back to the way it was when I was young. There was no such thing as food waste either, and when you went to the shop for your mothers and fathers, and you had your own, you brought down your own basket, and they wrapped stuff, sugar for example, in brown, in degradable bags like paper bags. There was no such thing as plastic. I don't remember plastic in anything. And when you got a mineral, it was in a bottle. Everything was bottles. You even had this one that you could squeeze. You used to have it. You could squeeze the knob, but they were all bottles, so they were all recyclable. You got your milk in the shops. They were in bottles. Very hard now to come across milk in bottles. It's all plastic as well. I mean, people, these companies that are gone plastic mad, they'd want to sort of rejig their stuff and go back to what they were doing years ago, when there was none of this pollution that we're talking about, this pollution in the countryside, not up in the sky. What you see going about, they're just full of plastic and interfering with wildlife and all the rest of it. So I suggest to the supermarkets to get away from all this plastic that they're saddling the country with. Let's go back to the old days in some ways. We can't live in the past, but funny how things were so better then, in my lifetime. I think it's the monopoly situation that is in this country and perhaps in other countries, that this convenience, and it's actually not convenient, because at the end of the day, it's clogging up the rivers and the seas, the plastic. So that's another tip. And don't keep the fridge door open in supermarkets. In other words, let people be sensible. You know, in a lot of ways, they're not sensible.
I do see people inside in, like, say Tesco's, Dunnes Stores, Lidl, all the different supermarkets, and what they do is they open the fridge door, the glass door, and they might be there standing there for, say, some of them for 5 minutes, okay, trying to pick out what they want, and all the cold air is coming out, and so they're wasting the resources there by doing
Correct,
that.
yeah, that's a thing as well.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of fridges, and so it must be a costly affair, all the fridges to be maintained at an even temperature, with all this frozen food that's available now. It's a far cry from what was years ago, and it's progress, but is it progress? Because it's all packaged stuff, and it's not recyclable, most of it.
Now, there's quite a few food apps available to reduce food wastage. Okay, that's your number 8 one there.
Yeah.
And there's actually groups which we're going to talk about later on.
That's right.
Where you can share
Now,
food.
walk to the shops if you can, providing that you're able to walk. But walk to the shops. Don't be driving and spending your Sunday going to supermarkets. As a matter of fact, in other countries, progressive countries like France and Germany, that are big, shops are closed on a Sunday. And they're not allowed to open. You'll get smaller places sometimes open, and perhaps restaurants. And you get your food. I wouldn't like to go into a restaurant and be paying big money and suddenly I'm getting a lot of plastic. You see where we're coming from? So if the upmarket places are not using plastic, why not let the fast food outlets copy them? And it would improve perhaps the customer flow as well, and be very satisfactory for all. And then if you have too much food and you have waste, well, let the charities have it.
Yeah.
And they are collecting food from that's gone out of date, because we have inspectors now, probably plenty of them going around, we don't hear much about them, but go into shops and the fountain is over the time. So this is why you get a bit of waste, because it's probably safer for us that we're not buying food that's over its time. So the inspectors call, and often people are fined if they have food on their shelves that are out of date. So that's a very important thing in the supermarkets. I see them going around checking all these things, and which is sometimes they reduce prices to try and just actually get rid of it with customers, rather than having to give it to the food people that collect food. There's lorries.
Food waste, you mean?
Food waste, yes.
Yeah.
And so these are all matters that I think we have to sort of do. So I hope there's a few tips there now. We've gone from one thing to another, and of course this is another thing in fast food outlets. You often get a pint of these nappies, or not nappies.
Oh, sweet Lord. Oh, they look like nappies. The napkins.
No, these.
They throw them at you. You could go in there and you could get 10 or 20 of those.
And it'd be handy then, I suppose, some of them bring them home and so that they have them at home. But nonetheless, it's a bit of a waste. And there was something else about that I thought about.
You were saying in France they only give you one, is it?
Oh, that's right, yeah. They give you one of everything, and you daren't take two.
Oh.
Because they eat without salt. And the fact is that they're closed, the supermarkets, it means people then can visit relatives and such.
On the Sunday, is it?
Yes, on a Sunday. Now, when I was young, Sunday used to be a very quiet sort of a day, and in some ways it could be sort of, you could find fault with it, but nonetheless people visited relatives when they had them nearby, which now they're not visiting relatives.
Yeah.
And if they do, it's only on a flying visit, and perhaps they have to make an appointment or ring beforehand. There's none of this business of the friendly knock on the door.
Yeah.
People often say that there's nothing nicer than the knock on the door.
That's it. Now I just want to run through a few statistics for anybody who's interested, okay? So the situation in America is 40% of US food is never eaten, and 1 in 8 Americans go hungry. It takes a lot of resources to actually make food in terms of transport, etc., to transport it around the world. So if they could get their head around the idea of produce what's needed, it'd be fantastic. The Irish situation is that for every household in Ireland, it's responsible for 1 tonne of food waste, which is a colossal amount.
It is. Well, you probably find that statistic just gives it to each household, but there'd be a lot of households that wouldn't. They wouldn't have food wastage because they're prudent, and especially the older variety, they knew what it was like to have not enough food because their wages didn't do what they would like. So there wasn't this plethora of choices at the time. So you had no food wastage. Now you have families that are in receipt of good wages and all the rest of it, and so they're buying more food than they need. So I would say that there's actually 50% of the homes responsible for all this food waste, rather than the majority. Although, for the point of view of statistics, that gives an idea. A tonne of waste, that's an awful lot. So if there's just a certain number actually producing probably a lot, maybe 2 tonnes or more, they don't realise it because they're throwing it out.
See, some families now have 2 and 3 fridges. They have 2 fridges and then they have a huge freezer.
That's right, and then oftentimes in some families I've come across it when I'm visiting families. Children don't want this, that or the other, and they're all having different sort of food items and not finishing their plate. When that never happened years ago, you didn't get enough most of the time. You could have done with a bit more, and you might say, oh, yeah, this one got more than I got, this type of stuff. So there was none of this us all having what we fancied. We had to join in with the table and sit down with the parents and have our food. And none of this old cod of too much.
Now, we started off our conversation with coffee, and we'll probably just finish it up now on coffee as well. Just to give you an idea of the figures, okay? 2.5 billion disposable coffee cups are thrown away in the UK each year, and 99.75% are not recycled. That's colossal.
Of course it's colossal, and that's why there's no point in these fast food outlets and where all this, and perhaps the petrol stations, they also have coffee, some of them have coffee and food outlets that you can have what you want, and it's all plastic. Sure. And that type of thing. So they'd all want to sort of look at it and go back to the way things were done before all this plastic mountain that is about the place, and like what you just described there. Like it's just it's just out of hand altogether. So these outlets that are responsible for this want to sort of wake up and do something about it, because they're not behaving responsibly. I mean, they're making profit. Sure, for goodness sake, life is more than profit the whole time. You've got to be responsible and not be creating all this pollution in the rivers and seas and all around the countryside.
The other thing we were saying, and it's an important thing as well, is that the coffee cup has become a symbol of fashion. So people like to go down the street with their insomnia and with the label on it, like a pair of Levi's they're wearing, or their
correct, yeah,
their crosshatch or whatever they're wearing, or Tommy Hilfiger or whatever they're wearing. But they'd like to have it on the cup as well. And so when they have the Starbucks there, it kind of gives them an identity. So the coffee shops have a bit of a responsibility to kind of get away from that kind of image.
They have, yeah. Give value and quality, but not this nonsensical business of kind of like a fashion idea. The young people that want to they sort of be a bit more responsible and dress properly and forget about this business of that type of thing, which is a factor, of course. Mm-hmm. Just do things. Is it possible that they could do things sensible?
I hope it is possible, John.
The Christian and Jobs Action Party encourages them to sort of adopt a responsible attitude and do things from a responsible point of view for the countryside and for the lack of and for the lower the pollution, and let them not contribute to it. Because when they bring this stuff, what do they do with it? Do they put it in bins? When I'm going around the country, which I do, and even in towns where they have some sort of a service, if you go down some parts of it where there's hedges or that and put there at expense, you often find it's absolutely riddled with plastic bottles of one kind or another that people just peg them in there. Yep. Young people mostly, because you don't see too many mature type ones going around at that racket. It's young people. And yet at the same time they're the ones that's yapping about the climate and all the rest of it.
You're talking about Extinction Rebellion.
Well, you see, this is another thing. So, I mean, if you believe in nothing, this is what you're going to believe in. If in the secular age, it's going to probably go from bad to worse. They're not practicing what we practiced years ago when I was young. There was none of that sort of extremism. And now you have it.
That's it. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you very much, Oliver.